Similar to its sibling, the Toyota 4Runner V8, the Lexus GX 470 is yet another SUV that has succumbed to the infamous Toyota tax. Now, with it getting harder and harder to find one of these with under 200,000 miles, let's take a look and see why the Lexus GX has been such a highly sought after and pretty desirable SUV. This GX 470 in particular belongs to my friend Lewis. It's a 2006 GX 470 in black onyx. In terms of options, this one isn't as loaded as all GXs can go, but this one has the optional KDSS, which is an active sway bar that uses hydraulic pressure. This one also has the optional navigation package, and this one has halogen headlights, but you can get HIDs as an option. Interestingly enough, the base price of a GX 460 back in 2006 was $46,000. This one has a tick over 170,000 miles, and thankfully, both of the ones I have today have under 200K. But it's getting harder and harder to find if you're used to this market, especially if you're looking at an 08 or 09. Those are like the holy grail of GX. And just like its platform mate, the 4Runner V8, the GX 470 only came with one engine option. Oh, over the years, I opened the gas cap today. Yes. So feast your eyes on this. This is very similar to the V8 4Runner, a 4.7 liter dual overhead cam V8, also known as the 2UZ FE. It's loosely related to the 1UZ and the 3UZ in Lexus products, but this was only in the trucks. You could find this engine in the larger Land Cruiser and LX 470, and even the Toyota Tundra. Yeah, even the first gen Toyota Tundra. Anyways, in this application, it makes 270 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque, going to all four wheels using a full-time four-wheel drive system and a 6-speed automatic transmission. Lexus actually put a 5-speed in the 03 to 05 GXs, but the later years have a 6-speed.
Oh. 6 a.m. and already the boy ain't right.
Along with the full-time four-wheel drive system, the 470s come with a center locking differential, Toyota's A-Track off-road traction control system, and also a 2-speed transfer case. Lexus rated the GX to get 15 mpg in the city and 19 on the highway. It's interesting, those are really similar numbers to my old Infiniti QX4 that got 15 in the city and 18 on the highway. Lexus recommends premium fuel for the GX's engine because it makes a little bit more power than the 4Runner V8's engine. All UZ engines, so that's the 1UZ, 2UZ, and the 3UZ, use timing belts, so I would change it every 7 years or 100,000 miles. Over the years, the GX 470 only had one wheel option, and it was this 17-inch alloy wheel. This one has some larger all-terrain tires on it, but there's many things that you could do in regards to the suspension to lift it. Usually these have auto-leveling air suspension in the back, but this one has been converted to coils, while the silver one still has its factory bags. The GX 470 can tow up to 6,500 pounds, similar to the 4Runner V8, but this is where problems lie for my personal preferences and where some controversy has sparked in the GX community: the swing tailgate. I myself like the split tailgate design because you can use it like a bench, but just like a lot of other Japanese SUVs like the Toyota RAV4 and the Honda CR-V, this one has a swinging tailgate, which is okay, but this side faces the curb. Also, if you have a car right behind you, makes it a little bit difficult to load and unload. The way how the third row folds in the GX is pretty unique as well. As you can see, it folds up just like in the 4th gen Toyota 4Runners. The third row folds manually in this one with these little hooks on top, and then you pull the bottom that latches the seat to the floor, and then you recline it with this lever here. And then with both third row seats folded up, you have only 13 cubic feet of volume. That's kind of small. But to get a little bit more room, you fold the third row up, which isn't that hard at all. It's a pretty easy process. you get up to 50 cubic feet of volume. And with the third row up and the second row down, you get up to 77 cubic feet of volume. And what I thought was a console is actually the cover for the latch on each side to pull the third row out. So Toyota makes it pretty easy. One of the things I would have never known is this toolkit that's built in the car. Lexus includes that with a tire iron, some wrenches, pliers, a screwdriver. Pretty decent. Something I personally don't see often anymore is third row vent windows. These aren't electric, but there's two little latches on each side that pop out these windows so you can have a little bit more ventilation in the third row. Thankfully, getting into the third row of the GX is not a painstaking ordeal. It does flip up, so if you have a car seat in here, it's not gonna tumble with the seat because the back of the seat folds up first and then the bottom. The new Toyota SUVs do the same thing, but it makes getting into the third row pretty easy. I remember being in the back of a GX 470 in my childhood and it was small. It's even smaller now. I'm 5'9" and I do have some headroom with the third row seat reclined all the way up, but I can recline it back a bit. And then now my hair just brushes up against it, but I'm a little bit more comfortable. There's almost no knee room and I can't fit my feet under the seat, so it's pretty tight back here. There is a plug back here. It's 115 volts and it turns on with the switch on the dash. Thankfully, there is an air vent and a cup holder for each side, and what looks like to be a console is actually the cover for the latch to take the third row out. So that's nice. On the driver's side, there's actually this cubby here that you can put things in that has a little strap in it, so I think that's for the first aid kit. One other thing that I wanted to mention, if you're trying to bring your seat down, you have to make sure you push this and then pull this down at the same time. But this is what the seat looks like when it's folded. Thankfully, things in the second row get better, but you can see the compact size of the GX, what you get on the inside. But I'm glad that we have grab handles up here and here. Makes it very easy to step into, and this is much more spacious. As I close the door, no rattles, the car feels very good. There's ashtrays in the door. Lexus really likes people smoking in the back. It makes it easy to clean out. The second row of the GX is a much better place to sit in than the third row. I'm 5'9", like I said, and I have a decent amount of headroom. Knee room is pretty good, and I can fit my feet under the seat. The driver's seat is in my position. There's also map pockets on each side of the seat. Also, there's a center armrest, which is pretty soft, with cup holders that are reasonably sized. If you're looking for the climate control, it's actually down here. Thankfully, the GX has a third zone for the climate, and the controls are right on the back side of the center console. Underneath that, there's two aux jacks that you could put headphones in, I think, so you can listen to the front audio. There's also air vents in the ceiling for the second row, and also some coat hangers. Now, before I get run over, let's get inside of the GX. It's really easy to get into because there's grab handles up here, you have the running boards, and there's these handles up here as well. I have a nice solid thunk when I close the driver's door as well. There's two-person memory, I notice, for the steering wheel, which is power tilt and telescoping, the driver's seat, and the mirrors. But this is the key fob for the GX, Lexus's old design of their key. No push-button start. Now, I quite like the interiors of these a little bit more than the 4th Gen 4Runner, just because it's a little bit more refined and a little bit less utilitarian. But the steering wheel is pretty much the same, except this one has real wood on the top and the bottom, which feels great, but it's a 4-spoked leather-wrapped wheel. This, the horn, has a good sounding horn. On the left side of the wheel, there's buttons that control the audio system, and the right side controls Bluetooth and voice control. The headlights are automatic, and also the wipers on this one. I appreciate that all 4 windows are automatic. There's also heated mirrors on this one. Also, in that same area as the heated mirror button is the button to turn on the power outlet in the third row. As we look up at the gauges, they're very simple, but I like them. I love the chrome rings around all the gauges. It uses Lexus's electroluminescent technology, so when you shut the car off, the gauges go away. Towards the center, there's a little screen with a clock and also what's a trip computer, and also it shows the temperature outside, altitude, and that's it. Down below is the factory navigation system, which still works, and it's actually reasonably snappy for being an older system. Well, it's not that laggy. It's faster than some other cars today. The navigation still works on this one. And for the climate control, this is one of the little annoyances I have. You have to go into the screen to turn it on. So if this ever goes out, you can't turn on the climate. But this has dual zone climate control for the front seats. There are a few hard touch buttons underneath the screen as well. And under that is the radio for the GX. It uses the Mark Levinson audio system, which sounds really good. It's known to last, but the only thing is, if you find one of these or if you own one of these and the audio goes out, check your amp. That goes out. There's another ashtray for the driver and or passenger underneath all that with a cigarette lighter, but this one has never been used. And underneath that, there's a 12-volt car charger, the center diff lock button, and the buttons for the heated seats. Now, talking about the seats in the GX, they're pretty comfortable. They're nothing extraordinary like the Euro cars in the segment, but it's a nice, soft, supple leather that you just sink into, and I really could just cruise on road trips all day with this. Both the driver's seat and the passenger seat use full power with two-way lumbar. The GX also has these armrests, which are pretty adjustable as well. I like that this still has a manual handbrake, very trucky. And also the shifter is trucky as well. But when you put the car into reverse, you do have a backup camera, which is nice, especially for 06, but this doesn't have guidance lines and no trajectory or anything like that, but it's nice that you have a camera. Behind the shifter are two shallow cup holders, which can fit my bottle in there, well, my little plastic water bottle, but nothing else. But older Lexuses never really excelled in bottle storage. Behind that though is a pretty reasonably sized center console. Up top, the rear view mirror is auto dimming, and of course this one has a single pane moonroof. Inside your GX, there's a few things to note when it comes to off-roading, and of course you have the four-wheel drive shifter over here, which lets you go into low range and high range. By default, the GX is in high range. If you want to lock the center diff, that button is right there, so it locks the power from 50 rear and 50 front. These buttons over here control the rear air suspension. You can manually raise and lower it with these buttons. This controls the stiffness of it, so comfort and sport, soft and firm. And you can also turn the height control off completely. And down here is downhill assist control. Every time I drive one of these GXs, it really reminds me how solid they are. They feel so different compared to the 4th gen 4Runner. Even with the V8, just a much more smooth and buttery feeling. We are going to see how that little bit of power, well, a little bit of extra power does on this highway here that we will merge onto. Now, of course, these aren't fast, and I guess the power compensates for the little bit of extra weight, but power is very smooth. That was floored, and I mean, that got up to speed quickly. It's not slow, but of course, this isn't supposed to be the fastest thing in the world. Power in this is mainly for smoothness and refinement. The ride is pretty smooth as well. The one I'm driving doesn't have air suspension. It's been converted to normal coils, but the ones with air suspension really float in comfort mode just a little bit too much, but in sport or normal, it's perfectly fine. The steering is very smooth and linear, and power, yeah, like it gets up to speed well. This is just one of those cars that you really don't feel the speed as you accelerate. It's just smooth power. The engine isn't that loud, which is nice. This one, even with all-terrains, is pretty quiet, but I can't imagine how one of these with street tires would be. And of course, in the GX, you sit up high, so you have a nice commanding view of the road. You see everything. The windows in this, all of them are big, all of them are square, which is a huge difference compared to new SUVs. That everything now has blind spots. These look top-heavy, but they don't really feel like it, especially with this one with coils again, and also if you have one with air ride in sport mode. It just feels so refined. You really feel like you're a man of class, or a woman of class, when you're driving the GX. The brakes actually feel a little bit more linear and a little bit more responsive than 4Runners, which is a nice touch. It makes it a little bit more refined in here, but it does roll a bit, you know, on corners, but it's not that bad. Power is very smooth. The transmission shifts very well. It's great. And of course, I know this isn't a small car, but for a 3-row SUV, this doesn't feel that huge. This is very easy to drive. To me, driving this evokes confidence because you have full-time 4-wheel drive. It's very safe, very luxurious. There's just nothing that could go wrong. Ultimately, any GX is a good GX, no matter if it's a 470 like this one, the later 460, or even the upcoming GX 550. I'm very curious to see that one, but I'm very glad we were able to look at the very first GX 470. If you're looking at one of these, you really can't go wrong, but I would make sure to check the frame for rust. But these are really solid SUVs that really put vehicles like the Land Rover Discovery up for its money. If you have one of these, let me know in the comments below if you just have this as your daily driver or if you take it off-road. And if anyone is interested, this beautiful black beast is actually for sale. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, thank you all for watching and supporting the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, peeps.